I still remember sitting in that tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn, surrounded by boxes containing everything I owned after the divorce. The place was quiet, almost suffocating in its silence. 3 years later, I never imagined my life would transform so completely. Then my phone buzzed that Wednesday afternoon. A text from Amanda, my ex-wife, after 3 years of absolute silence. The timing was perfect, almost too perfect. It came exactly on the day I signed the biggest contract of my life. She wanted something, and I knew exactly what it was. Before we dive into what happened next, I would love to know where you are watching this from. Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you have ever felt underestimated by someone who was supposed to believe in you, go ahead and hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about turning pain into power. Now let me take you back to where it all started, back when I thought I had everything figured out. Amanda and I got married 5 years before everything fell apart. We met in college when I was just a kid trying to figure out life. She was studying business, and I was deep into software engineering, spending late nights in the computer lab debugging code. She came from a well-off family in Connecticut. Her parents owned a chain of restaurants across the state, the kind of places with white tablecloths and wine lists thicker than textbooks. My background could not have been more different. My family came from California, working-class immigrants who believed in hard work above everything else. My father was an electrician coming home every night with calloused hands and tired eyes. My mother worked as a nurse, pulling double shifts to make sure my sister and I had everything we needed. When Amanda and I started dating, she said she loved how real I was, how grounded and genuine. She told me she was tired of the fake people in her social circle, the ones who only cared about appearances and bank accounts. I believed her. Why would I not? We rented a small one-bedroom apartment in Queens after graduation. The place was nothing fancy, just 600 square feet with a kitchen, barely big enough for 2 people to stand in at once. But it was ours, and that made it perfect. I landed a job as a software developer at a mid-sized tech company. The salary was $55,000 a year, enough to cover my half of everything. Amanda worked in marketing for a small startup in Manhattan, making $42,000 annually. Our life together was simple and comfortable. We shopped for groceries together every Saturday morning, pushing the cart down the aisles while debating whether we really needed the fancy olive oil or if the store brand would do just fine. We cooked dinner at home most nights, experimenting with new recipes we found online. Sunday evenings meant pasta and cheap wine, sitting on our worn-out couch watching movies on Netflix. I can still picture one specific night from those early years. We made spaghetti carbonara, probably our 10th attempt at getting it right. Amanda wore my old college sweatshirt, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. We drank wine straight from the bottle because all our glasses were dirty in the sink. We talked about buying a house someday, maybe having kids growing old together. She laughed at my terrible jokes. I felt like the luckiest man alive. Those moments felt permanent, like they would stretch on forever. I had no idea how temporary happiness could be. 3 years into our marriage, everything started shifting in ways I did not understand at first. Amanda got promoted at work. She moved to a bigger company in Manhattan, one of those places with modern offices and free lunch buffets. Her salary jumped to $85,000, suddenly more than what I was making. I was genuinely happy for her. We celebrated by going to this Italian restaurant she had been wanting to try for months. I ordered the cheapest bottle of wine on the menu, but it still cost $60. She did not seem to mind. That night, everything still felt okay. But slowly, gradually, things changed. Amanda started coming home later and later. At first, it was just an hour or two past her usual time. She explained she needed to network with colleagues, that it was important for her career. I understood. I wanted to be supportive. She began mentioning new names, people I had never heard of before. Tyler from the finance department, Harper from senior marketing. These names came up more and more in her conversations. She would tell me stories about their fancy apartments, their expensive cars, their weekend trips to places I had only seen in magazines. Then the complaints started, small at first. Amanda mentioned how cramped our apartment felt. She pointed out that Tyler lived in a penthouse in Tribeca, with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the Hudson River. She started shopping more frequently, coming home with designer bags and shoes that cost more than our monthly grocery budget. When I gently suggested we should save money for a down payment on a house, she waved me off. She said I did not understand what it took to look professional in her new environment. One night, Amanda came home at 11 o'clock. I had been waiting up, worried something had happened. She smelled like wine and expensive cologne. Her makeup was smudged slightly around the edges. I asked if everything was okay. She snapped at me, her voice sharp in a way I had never heard before. She said she was building her career, that not everyone could just sit behind a computer all day writing code that nobody would ever see. The words hit me like a physical blow. I worked hard, put in long hours, solved complex problems. But in that moment, she made me feel completely useless. I swallowed the hurt and said nothing. What could I say? 6 months after her promotion, the distance between us became impossible to ignore. Amanda spent most of her time with work colleagues. She came home only to sleep, and even then we barely spoke. She stopped cooking with me. She stopped asking about my day. Our Saturday grocery trips ended. She ate out constantly, always with clients or coworkers, or so she claimed. I tried everything I could think of to save our marriage. I cooked romantic dinners, lighting candles and setting the table with our wedding china. I made reservations at restaurants I knew she loved. Every time she had an excuse, she was too exhausted. She had an early morning meeting. She had already eaten. Could we do it another time? One night I woke up at 2 a.m. The bedroom was dark, except for the glow of Amanda's phone screen. She was sitting up in bed, texting someone, a soft smile on her face. The kind of smile I had not seen in months. When I asked who she was talking to, she locked her phone quickly and told me it was just work stuff. She said I should go back to sleep. But in that brief moment before the screen went dark, I saw the name. Tyler. My stomach twisted into knots. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to trust that it was innocent. So I forced myself to close my eyes and pretend everything was fine. 2 weeks later, Amanda suggested we move to a bigger apartment on the Upper West Side. She showed me listings online, places with doormen and gym facilities and roof decks. The rent was $2,800 a month, nearly double what we were paying. I looked at our finances. We could not afford it, not if we wanted to keep saving for our future. I told her we should wait, be smart about money. Her reaction shocked me. She exploded in anger, yelling that I was always holding her back, that I lacked ambition, that I was content being mediocre forever. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. She said Tyler had told her I lacked ambition. She had been discussing our private life, our financial situation with Tyler. The betrayal stung worse than any of her other words. That night, we went to bed, facing opposite walls, the space between us feeling like an ocean. Everything came crashing down on a Friday evening in late September. Amanda told me she had to go on a business trip to Boston for the weekend. She seemed excited, almost too excited for a work trip. She packed a small suitcase, kissed me quickly on the cheek, and left. I spent Friday night alone, ordering takeout and watching basketball on television. Saturday morning, I decided to clean the apartment and run errands. I drove to the grocery store, the same one we used to go to together, pushing a cart down empty aisles. At the produce section, I ran into Harper. I recognized her from the one company party I had attended with Amanda. Harper was friendly, smiling as she picked through avocados. She made small talk, asking how I was doing. Then she said something that stopped my heart. She mentioned how lucky I was to be so understanding about Amanda going to the Hamptons for the weekend. The Hamptons, not Boston. The words echoed in my head. I must have looked confused, because Harper's face changed immediately. She realized she had said something wrong. She stammered an apology and quickly walked away. I abandoned my cart right there in the middle of the store. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip my car keys. I drove home on autopilot, my mind racing with possibilities I did not want to consider. When I got back to our apartment, I noticed Amanda had left her laptop on the desk. She usually took it everywhere, but in her rush, she must have forgotten it. The screen was asleep, but when I touched the trackpad, it lit up. She was still logged into her iMessage account. I should not have looked. I knew it was wrong, but I could not stop myself. The messages were right there, a conversation between Amanda and Tyler going back months. I scrolled through each message, feeling like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. Tyler had written the night before, saying he could not wait for their weekend getaway, that the beach house was ready. Amanda responded that she had told me she was in Boston for work. Then she wrote something that broke me completely. She said I was so clueless it was almost sad. I kept reading, unable to stop, even though every word hurt. Tyler asked when she was going to leave me. He said she deserved someone at her level. Amanda replied that she was working on it, that she just needed to figure out the finances. She mentioned my salary barely covered half our rent anyway. I scrolled back further, discovering messages going back 8 months. 8 entire months of lies and betrayal. There were texts where Amanda mocked me to Tyler. She made fun of my clothes, my old car, the way I talked about my work. Tyler called me her charity case husband. Amanda responded with a laughing emoji. I sat on the floor of our apartment, unable to breathe properly. The walls felt like they were closing in. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my wife, all of it was a lie. I did not sleep that night. I sat in the dark living room staring at nothing, my mind replaying 5 years of memories and wondering which parts had been real. Sunday night, Amanda came home. Her skin was sun-kissed, her hair windblown. She looked happy and relaxed. She set down her bag and started telling me about Boston, about the conference sessions and the networking dinners. I watched her lie to my face with such ease. Finally, I interrupted her. My voice was calm, almost eerily calm. I asked how the Hamptons had been. Her face went completely pale. She froze mid-sentence, her mouth slightly open. She stammered, asking what I was talking about. I handed her the printed messages, all 12 pages of them. She looked at the papers, and I watched the color drain from her face entirely. She tried to deflect, saying I had invaded her privacy, that I had no right to go through her personal messages. But I was done playing games. I told her I knew everything. 8 months of lying. 8 months of cheating. 8 months of making me feel worthless while she built a secret life with someone else. Amanda changed tactics. She started crying, mascara running down her cheeks. She said she was sorry, that it had been a mistake, that Tyler meant nothing to her. But I had read every message. I knew she had been planning to leave me. I knew exactly what she thought of me. I looked at her crying on our couch and I felt nothing. The woman I loved was gone, if she had ever existed at all. I told her I wanted a divorce. Her tears stopped almost instantly. Her face hardened into something cold and unfamiliar. She said fine, that I should know Tyler made 3 times what I made. She said I was lucky she had stayed as long as she did. Those words should have destroyed me. Instead, they just made everything clear. This was who she really was. The divorce process took 2 months. Thankfully, we had no children and no major shared assets. Amanda wanted me to pay her alimony. She claimed she had become accustomed to a certain lifestyle during our marriage. Her lawyer actually said those words with a straight face. My lawyer pointed out that Amanda earned more than I did. She left the meeting furious, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. During those 2 months, Amanda started spreading rumors. She told mutual friends I had been controlling and unsupportive. She painted herself as the victim escaping an unhappy marriage. Some people believed her. Friends I had known for years stopped returning my calls. The isolation felt crushing. The day we signed the final divorce papers was gray and cold. Amanda showed up with Tyler. He wore an expensive suit and a smug expression. On her left hand was a massive diamond engagement ring, so large it looked almost cartoonish. She made sure I saw it. As we finished signing documents, she leaned over and whispered that I would never amount to anything. She told me to have a nice life. Her tone made it clear she meant the opposite. I signed my name one final time, gathered my copies of the paperwork, and left without looking back. I moved into a tiny studio apartment in Brooklyn that same week. The place cost $1,100 a month and was barely bigger than our old bedroom. It had a Murphy bed that folded down from the wall, a kitchenette with 2 burners, and a bathroom so small I could barely turn around. I owned almost nothing. A bed, a desk, my computer, some clothes. That first night I lay on the thin mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling, feeling like a complete failure. The first 3 months after the divorce were the darkest period of my life. I went to work like a robot, performing my duties, mechanically speaking, only when necessary. I came home to my empty studio and sat in silence. I did not call friends. I did not go out. I ordered food delivery and ate alone, barely tasting anything. My mother called every few days. She knew something was wrong, but I could not bring myself to tell her the whole truth. I just repeated that I was fine, knowing she did not believe me. One evening, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, a friend from college I had not spoken to in over a year. He said he heard what happened and wanted to meet up for a beer. I ignored the message. He texted again the next day, and the day after that, finally he just sent me an address and a time, saying he would be there whether I showed up or not. Something about his persistence made me go. We met at a small bar in Brooklyn, the kind of place with dim lighting and old wooden tables covered in carved initials. Marcus was already there when I arrived, 2 beers waiting. He looked the same as I remembered, maybe a bit more tired around the eyes. We had been close in college, bonding over late-night study sessions and a shared love of terrible action movies. He had always been the entrepreneurial one, talking about startups and business ideas while the rest of us focused on landing stable jobs. Marcus did not waste time on small talk. He told me straight up that he had heard about Amanda, that she was trash, and that I was better off without her. I tried to laugh it off, making some joke about how she had made it clear I was not good enough. Marcus got serious then. He said he had known me since sophomore year, that I was one of the smartest coders he had ever met, and that I needed to stop letting her destroy me. His words hit harder than I expected. I realized I had been letting Amanda's voice play on repeat in my head, believing her version of who I was. Marcus told me about his startup. He was developing a fintech application, something about using artificial intelligence to help people manage personal finances. He had a small team and some initial funding, but he needed a lead developer. The problem was, he could not afford to pay market-rate salaries. Instead, he was offering equity stakes in the company. It was a gamble, a risk. There were no guarantees the startup would succeed. Most did not. I hesitated. I was barely holding myself together. The thought of taking on something new, something uncertain, felt overwhelming. But Marcus looked at me with complete confidence. He said I needed this. He said I needed something to fight, for something to prove to myself. After a week of thinking about it, lying awake in my studio apartment, weighing the options, I agreed. Working for Marcus's startup changed everything. The work was intense, demanding every bit of skill and creativity I possessed. I wrote code until 2 or 3 in the morning, fueled by coffee and determination. When I was deep in programming, solving complex problems, building something from nothing, I forgot about the pain. The work became my therapy, my escape, my purpose. Slowly, gradually, I started feeling like myself again. Or maybe I was becoming a new version of myself, someone stronger than before. I started taking better care of my physical health, too. I joined a cheap gym near my apartment and began running in the mornings before work. At first, I could barely run a mile without stopping. But I kept at it, pushing a little further each day. Over months, I lost about 15 pounds. My body became leaner and stronger. I grew out my beard, keeping it trimmed short. I changed my hairstyle, updated my wardrobe with simple but well-fitting clothes. None of it was for anyone else. It was about respecting myself, about looking in the mirror and recognizing the person staring back. Marcus introduced me to his network of young entrepreneurs and tech professionals. These people were different from the crowd Amanda had run with. They cared about ideas and innovation, not just appearances and status. At a networking event in Manhattan, I met Sarah. She taught yoga and meditation, radiating a calm confidence that drew me in. We started talking about stress management and mindfulness. She taught me breathing techniques and meditation practices. For the first time since the divorce, I felt like I was healing properly, not just covering wounds. Sarah and I became friends first. There was no pressure, no expectations. She listened when I needed to talk, and gave me space when I needed silence. Slowly, friendship developed into something deeper. 6 months after we met, we started dating. Being with Sarah was nothing like being with Amanda. Sarah saw me for who I was and genuinely liked that person. She supported my work without competing with it. She celebrated my successes without resentment. 18 months after the divorce, Marcus's startup began gaining serious traction. Our application attracted thousands of users. The algorithm I had developed was working better than we had hoped, providing genuinely helpful financial insights that people valued. Tech publications started writing about us. Investors began reaching out. 2 years after the divorce, a major fintech company approached Marcus about acquisition. The offer was $12 million. I owned 25% of the company. After taxes and legal fees, my share came to $2,200,000. I sat in the lawyer's office, staring at the number on the paperwork, unable to fully process it. I had never imagined having that kind of money. My first call was to my mother. I told her I was paying off the mortgage on their house, that they would never have to worry about that payment again. She cried so hard I could barely understand her words. She kept saying she was proud of me, calling me Mijo, her voice breaking with emotion. That moment meant more than any amount of money ever could. I bought a 2-bedroom apartment in Williamsburg, with views of the East River. I hired an interior designer, who helped me create a space that felt like home, minimalist and modern, with clean lines and natural light. But the most important thing was not the apartment or the money. It was the peace I felt. For the first time since the divorce, I was genuinely happy. Not because of material success, but because I had rebuilt myself from nothing. I had proven to myself that I was capable, that I had value, that Amanda had been completely wrong about me. 3 years after the divorce, I was working as vice president of engineering for the company that had acquired our startup. My salary was $250,000 annually, plus stock options worth even more. One Wednesday afternoon, I had just finished signing a consulting contract with a Fortune 500 company. The deal was worth $500,000 for 6 months of work. I sat in my office overlooking Central Park, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I opened it. The message read, "Hey Diego, it is Amanda. Long time no talk. How have you been?" My heart skipped. 3 years of silence, and now this. I stared at the message for a long time, then locked my phone without responding. That evening I told Sarah about it. She asked what I thought Amanda wanted. I said I had no idea, but the timing felt suspicious. 2 days later, Amanda texted again. She said she had seen my name in TechCrunch and congratulated me on my success. She asked if I wanted to catch up. I searched for the article. There, it was a feature about the company and my role in developing key technology. The piece included estimated net worth figures for major stakeholders. Amanda knew I had money now. That was why she was reaching out. I decided to respond curious about what she really wanted. I agreed to meet her. Amanda suggested Café Lalo on Saturday at 2 in the afternoon. That cafe held significance. It was where we had our first date 10 years earlier, where I had nervously spilled coffee on the table, and she had laughed instead of getting annoyed. The choice of location felt calculated, designed to trigger nostalgia. I agreed anyway. Saturday arrived. I got to the cafe 10 minutes early and ordered a black coffee. I wore a linen button-down shirt, dark jeans, and leather shoes. Nothing fancy, just my normal style these days. Amanda walked in exactly on time. Her hair was still long, falling past her shoulders. She wore a floral dress and perfect makeup. But I noticed things I had not expected. She looked tired. There were fine lines around her eyes that had not been there before. Her smile seemed forced, not reaching her eyes the way it used to. She hugged me. I stood stiffly, not returning the embrace. We sat down and she immediately complimented my appearance, saying success suited me. I thanked her politely and said she looked well too. We ordered coffee. Amanda began talking, filling the silence with words. She told me about work, how she had been laid off from her company the previous year. She was freelancing now, doing marketing consulting. Her income was inconsistent and stressful. She asked about my job. I gave brief, polite answers. Then Amanda shifted the conversation. She said she had been thinking about us lately. I stayed silent, waiting for what I knew was coming. She said she had made a huge mistake. She told me things with Tyler had not worked out. Apparently he had cheated on her too. Karma, I thought, but I kept my face neutral. I simply said I was sorry to hear that. Amanda reached across the table and grabbed my hand. She said she finally understood what she had lost. She claimed I had always been there for her, and she had taken me for granted. She said she wanted to try again, that we could start fresh, that she was different now. Her eyes were pleading, searching my face for any sign of softening. I pulled my hand away from hers slowly and deliberately. I looked directly into her eyes and spoke in a voice that was calm, but completely certain. I told her she needed to understand something clearly. She had not made a mistake. She had made a choice. She chose to cheat on me for 8 months. She chose to humiliate me and tell Tyler I was her charity case. She chose to spread rumors and make me feel worthless. Every single one of those was a conscious decision. Amanda's eyes filled with tears. She said she had been young and stupid, that people change. I agreed that people do change. I told her I had changed. I became someone who knows his worth, someone who will never accept being treated as less than I deserve. She asked if there was any chance for us to reconcile. I reminded her of what she said the day we signed our divorce papers. She told me I would never amount to anything. I said she was wrong. I did amount to something. Not because of money or success, but because I learned to value myself. Amanda tried a different approach. She brought up the 5 good years we had together, asking if those counted for something. I told her, those years did count. They taught me exactly what I do not want in a partner. They taught me to recognize red flags I had ignored before. They taught me that love without respect is worthless. I told her I was with someone now, someone who sees me, respects me, and supports me. I told her I was genuinely happy, and I hoped she would find that someday too, but it would not be with me. I stood up from the table and placed a $20 bill next to my empty coffee cup. Amanda called after me, saying my name with desperation in her voice. But I walked out of the cafe without looking back. The moment I stepped onto the sidewalk, I felt lighter than I had in years. A weight I did not even realize I was still carrying simply lifted away. I pulled out my phone and texted Sarah 2 words. I am free. Finally. That evening, Sarah and I cooked dinner together at my apartment. We made tacos with all the toppings, drank margaritas, and laughed about silly things. The kitchen filled with the smell of cilantro and lime. Music played softly in the background. Sarah asked me how I felt after seeing Amanda. I thought about the question carefully. I told her I felt grateful. Grateful that Amanda had left me, because if she had not, I would never have become the person I was now. I would have stayed in a relationship that diminished me, never knowing what I was capable of achieving. Sarah smiled and called me beautiful. I continued talking, working through thoughts I had never fully articulated before. I said that for the longest time I believed Amanda leaving meant I was not enough. But the truth was completely different. She left because she could not see my potential. She left because she measured worth in all the wrong ways. And that was her limitation, not mine. A few months later, I heard through mutual friends that Amanda had moved back to Connecticut to live with her parents. She was rebuilding her career from scratch, starting over in her 30s. When I heard the news, I did not feel satisfaction or revenge. I felt nothing at all. She had become a character from my past, someone who no longer had any power over my emotions or my life. That indifference was the final proof that I had truly healed. I realized something profound during that period. Real success is not about money or status or proving anything to anyone else. Real success is about peace within yourself. It is about looking in the mirror and feeling proud of who you have become. It is about knowing deep in your core that you deserve love and respect. It is about understanding that your value does not depend on anyone else's opinion. Divorce felt like the end of everything when it was happening. The pain was crushing and all-consuming. But looking back now, I see it was actually a beginning. It was the beginning of me building a life on my own terms, according to my own values. It was the beginning of me discovering strength I never knew I possessed. Sometimes losing everything is the only way to find yourself, and I definitely found myself. I found a version of myself that is stronger, wiser, and infinitely more at peace than the person I was before. If someone walks away from you, let them go. Your path was not meant to be walked together. Sometimes the best thing that never happened to you is what you thought you could not live without. I thought I could not live without Amanda. I was wrong. I did not just survive without her. I thrived. And so can you. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had someone underestimate you, only to prove them completely wrong later? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one, and your experiences might inspire someone else going through a tough time. If this story resonated with you in any way, please hit that like button. Subscribe to hear more real-life stories about overcoming obstacles and becoming the best version of yourself. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear that their worth is not defined by someone who could not see it. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I hope it reminded you that setbacks are often setups for something better. Keep fighting for yourself. You deserve it. Take care, and I will see you in the next one.